Oh, please, great Cranzini, tell me about the Blockstar Oracle.
So I am new to NFTs, and I think a lot of people are because they haven't been around that long, and people are generally coming in sort of knowing nothing. And it's fun to go into a new project and you like the artwork and you start buying. But you can't be in this for just buying. There's also selling. And in general, everything comes down to what am I paying and then what can I get for it? Bottom line. And so especially for new people, but also for experienced people that are on a new project, you kind of want to understand the pricing and you kind of want to understand the traits and the characteristics. So let's just look at Magic Eden like we're doing right now. And there are so many projects out there. There are so many collections. And if I look at just any given collection, I'm not going to know if the lowest price entry, is that a good deal? Is it a maybe it's like some sort of fantastic deal and I don't even know it, or maybe I'm getting cheated. Who knows? There are so many people who don't know what they should be paying, and maybe they're a little bit nervous about it. And then on the other side, there are people who have bought something and have no idea what they've bought. And time after time in Discord rooms, you'll see the question, hey, I have this. What do you think I can get for it? What do you think I can sell it for? Or vice versa.
So what we did was we decided to not only take market sales data from various NFT collections on Magic Eden, but we also took how rare data, so just to establish some form of rarity. The project we chose as our pilot project is this project called Blockstars. It's a play-to-earn game in the music management simulation space. And what's unique about Blockstars is that even though they have, your rarity data that we do see here on Magic Eden, there are some intangibles that are also affecting price that even rarity doesn't really have an impact on. So for instance, you'll see here, there are several things like some of these numbers of block stars. The first 110 block stars are actually considered origin block stars and have a special premium to their pricing when it comes to people wanting to buy them. So a normal block star that looks identical might be worth maybe a couple of soul, but if they're an origin block star, they're worth a lot more. And something like that isn't going to be affected by their rarity modifier. There are other intangibles too, of things like, well, what instrument they have. That's something that the market has deemed something really important. People want different instruments. As you can see here, even in the lowest price range, there aren't very many guitars. There's a banjo, but there's not a lot of guitars because people really value those guitars. But that's not reflected in the rarity data. So we gathered all of the market sales data, in particular from this project and from every single block star in this project, and we stored it on a local database. And then we also combined all of the other data that we could find from how rare, just to give us some rarity and understanding of at least something about all of these block stars.
So once that was done, there was this massive database out there with all kinds of information and all kinds of good analytics available. And how do we present back the most important pieces of information? So obviously, across the board, rarity is going to be important. Why else use how rare, to capture that information? So that's going to be important. But in a lot of cases, rarity is subjective a little bit, in the sense that how do you define categories like mythic, like legendary, etc.? For the most part, it's based on percentages, and that's kind of what we put together. And so once we agreed on that, we're able to look at sales across rarity. And that means if you're in a certain rarity group, what are the sales that happened in that rarity group compared to what your individual block star sold at? Attributes are important. They come with the token when you buy it. They are unchangeable, and there is a percentage rarity, in a sense, assigned to that. So something like a bass guitar, that is more rare because there are fewer of them in the collection. So that's something to take into consideration when you are looking at pricing. Rarity overall versus rarity in amongst similar attributes. And it's not just one attribute. There are several that are taken into consideration. Instrument is a big one in this particular collection. And there are certain tokens that also appear with certain masks. Those were shown to be more valuable in a sense because they are more rare and there are fewer in the collection. So a lot of this is based on individual collection, but for the most part, the data tells you everything you need to know. And then basically what we're looking at is sales. So the three sort of, pieces that we settled on were sales of the specific token that you're looking at, that you're considering, sales of anything that is in a similar rarity group as that token, and sales of anything that is in a similar rarity and attribute group.
And you'll see once we built all of this sales data, so we can see various rarities based on, or various sales based on their rarity, based on their average, and all the rest, we decided then to say, okay, at what point do we start to make a prediction of what this particular block star is worth? How do we interpret this data? So our first step was to build an average price according to rarity. So we just went through rarity and we separated our rarities out into various, common, uncommon, rare, epic. We split out those categories as well into like a high common and a low common, primarily because the set is 10,000 large. So there's just so many that there's such a span between 6,001 and 10,000 that we decided it made more sense to split up the rarities a little bit more. In addition to that, we found our average price based on rarity. And at that point, we had kind of the general. So we can see that here. The average price for an high common in this set right now is currently 0.75 Sol. But that's not the complete story. What we also did was we also built the attribute. So what does the electric guitar Redwood sell at based on the overall average of all of the block stars? And we found that it actually sold for 1.15 times more. And this is all live data. So as more sell or less sell, then it reflects it accordingly. But currently, at this moment, it sells for 1.15 more. So what we did then is you take your 0.75, you multiply that by 1.15, and you get your 0.86 as your mid price for this particular block star. If they were an origin series, or if they had a mask, for instance, those would have also had premiums that would have also been calculated into that factor. Then we had three different categories. So the mid is your kind of your general average price. This is what it's looking like. But we wanted to also give a low and a high. What if I want to sell my block star quickly? What if I need to get out, but I also don't want to sell it and I just put it at, slightly below the floor price and hope somebody picks it up. That's not really good either because you're leaving money on the table. So we wanted to come up with an algorithm that presented a low price that is likely to sell quickly. So not guaranteed, but likely to sell quickly. In this particular instance, we put 0.72. And what we did was we took all of the sales of this particular type of block star. So that would be a high common electric guitar, redwood. We took all of those sales and we took the bottom half of those sales and then rebuilt all of the averages to give us our low price. And then we did it on the top half of the sales in order to give us our high price. At that point, we had all of the information we needed to make our price predictors, thus our premium model, so that you can come to the site and now see that, okay, this was a good price. And we can see by looking at our graph, the last time it sold was for 1 soul. So they actually got a high price for it, which is awesome. Good for them. But if we were to go look at, some various other block stars, like say, I don't know, let's pick one here, 9445. Let's try that one. 9445. So we pull this one up. It'll load all the data. You'll see there's a lot more data for this one, except there's not a lot of data in rarity and attribute, and that's because it's a very low epic with a very rare guitar. There's not a lot of those that sell, and you can kind of see that reflected in the null data there. But also you can see the rarity that has sold, and then this one in particular. So a mid price for this one is 2.21, and it sold for 2. So that's an okay deal for a block star like this, and I think many would love to have this in their collection, especially with the electric guitar RB, which is currently at a 1.4 multiplier for the instrument. One of the things I can show you as well is I'll go to number 45, which is an origin block star, so we can kind of see how that other premium kind of plays into effect. Now this one has never sold, it's never been up for sale, and we can kind of understand why, and of course it reflects in that way. Trumpet is one of the most rare instruments, if not the most rare instrument in the Blockstar game, so it will have a premium. And also you can see it has a Blockstar series, so this is the origin series, also as a premium, and we add those two together, so that would give us 5.05. We multiply 2.21, and that ends up with a mid-price point of 11.18 or 15.23, which tracks fairly well with a lot of the origin Blockstars that have been selling. And that's our Oracle for NFT collections. Now we did this for the Blockstar series just because it is so intricate. It's play to earn, so it's going to also have in-game abilities that we'll be able to see but won't be reflected in the NFT data necessarily, which we will also be able to dynamically add to the system by just adding more attributes into our system to reflect the value of that. And while we're not making any predictions over what the prices are going to be, we're using market sales data in order to have, this is a current snapshot of what it is worth according to the market, and what the market is telling us these things are currently worth on average. That's our NFT Oracle.
So just to bring up a couple of the subjective factors versus the objective factors, this tool is quite objective. This is not going to tell you that you love block stars with long red hair and you would pay a premium for that block star. Not going to tell you that. So, obviously there still is free will involved here. Some of the nice features that we haven't mentioned up to now are when you're looking at the Oracle and you are looking at a block star that you might want to purchase, there's a handy button that you can click on. And when you see that button, it takes you straight to Magic Eden, and you can actually put in your offer or your buy now at that point.
Not gonna lie, I kind of want to buy this one.